one's loved ones. We're going to start a minute early because that's a little out of character for myself. Just kidding. I usually make it a point of always being a little ahead of schedule. I don't like to speed if I'm ever operating a motor vehicle, your automobile. When your life starts to actually get on track and get focused, you'll find that things align for you in a different way that you never really experienced before, where you can actually take your time and breathe and just trust in knowing that, hey, this is going to work out exactly the way it was supposed to. And for me to inject a whole bunch of stress and worry and all that kind of stuff into the situation, how does that actually help? Other than give you more gray hairs. To be honest with you, it doesn't at all. So I know what divergence is laying out here. It's a lot of stuff. I know, because we're smashing the spirituality in together with equity. These are two huge life components that we've been literally deprived of. We didn't know that any of this stuff was out there for our consumption. As consumers, we should be made very aware of our product choices and what's available and what ingredients are in certain consumables and what warranties do these things come with. You know, things of this nature. Again, I could babble on and on and on. This particular class, if you want to call it that, we're talking about affidavits. Affidavits are important because they are going to introduce the truth and your personal firsthand knowledge of facts into a court record. And here's what's unique about this little tool is when you do it right, you're literally going to separate yourself, the man or woman, from the person or from this legal entity or this common law constructs of men, if you want to throw a little bit of scripture into it. All bad stuff. So I just wanted to say shout out to Big Kahuna here for some of your recent responses and answers on the chats and in other various platforms, where this gentleman gets it. He sees where we're going. He sees the significance of what we're all doing here. And I don't usually give prompts to a lot of people because I kind of just roll with this whole thing, thinking that everybody should be thinking like this anyway. We should be feeling like this anyway. But when one of us actually extends him or herself to put it out there for the record, like, hey, you are out of alignment with your silliness, with your statements on these social platforms. When, you know, I still see it, or the queens bring it to my attention. Oh, look what this individual is saying about you now. Again, I just have to laugh at this stuff. I don't take personally anybody else's opinions, their interjections, their statements, anything of this nature. You can't. We need it to be at a level, or we needed to have a protective maturity about us where I know I'm not on the playground and I'm 6 years old anymore. I know circumstances have changed. I may have used to deal with things in a certain manner when I was, for example, 6 years old. But being of the age I am now, this is where I've finally come to agree and accept this, that, hey, you know what? The brawn may win initially in many cases, but it's our embracement of the truth and our standing in conviction of it that really puts you in a way more powerful position, using your mind, your fingers, and the pen to get things done for us. Again, how do you avoid those bullies on the playground when you're 6 years old? Well, this kind of conditioning is something that really has stuck with me my whole life. Dean can attest to this as well. Taking on the bullies is something that I've always just loved to do for some reason. And yeah, it got me suspended from school a bunch of times. And I got in a lot of trouble for doing or standing up for what I thought was right. Even though others may have disagreed, at the time, I didn't care about their opinions. It's like something in me was telling me what to do. And I ran with it. Again, like I was saying yesterday or the day before, I spent the bulk of my childhood in my room because I was grounded, because I was always doing bad shit. I was always getting Dean in trouble. Here, this was one of my favorites. I'd go do something bad and then spin the situation so that it looked like Dean did it. And then he would get in trouble. And then when he would profess his innocence and try to tell my mom or dad that he had no involvement in it, but yet the scheme I laid out was so dialed, there's no way that Dean could have literally talked himself out of it. So now he would have a tantrum. professing his innocence, and now he'd be getting in trouble for something I did. I did this to the guy for years. It was an incredible little thing that I had concocted. What that led to, though, was my ability to read situations as I got older. Because I was sensitive to the way people used to think, the way people would believe, or how they would act. I used to be able to concoct situations, schemes, and then let the characters do their thing, and I would just kind of sit back and take notes just to see how close I got it, or how well I could anticipate, or use my intuitive skills to see if I could predict what was going to happen. I didn't really understand when I was that young what the hell was going on. I really didn't. Again, I got in more trouble than anybody that I know. So in the consequence of spending so much time being grounded in my room, I was able to develop some other skills. And then I'm sharing these skills with others now. So when you see negative comments online, or people's opinions that are throwing stones at us, saying that we're this, that, and the other, and that has literally no effect on me at all. It can't. And I hope that it has no effect on you either. Again, the digital age, they have some of these corporations and some of these entities in the background, they literally pay people to sit at a computer all day and create disturbances. They'll look at posts, they'll look at things, and they'll just comment. They'll throw adversity, they'll throw obscurity, they'll throw poo-poo-ness, they'll just shit on everything just to keep controversy rolling. That's what these people literally do all day. Shills, if you want to call them, trolls, whatever. As a matter of fact, when at Dean's height back in the day there, he had 2 or 3 individuals that were just always hammering on Dean. No matter what Dean said, posted, felt, expressed, ranted on about, it didn't matter. These certain individuals were always just there peppering. We found out a little bit later that 2 of those 3 individuals were lawyers. So there you go. I mean, what else do you have to say here? It's kind of, okay, take that for what it is. Back to the affidavits, though, and back to the truth. When I see loved ones standing in truth and trying to protect it, or trying to convey a message or an image to someone who's maybe a little out of alignment, like, hey, disconnect for a moment from where you're at and just open yourself to some new possibilities. That's the big thing here that I really appreciate when I see people do. And then people still get smashed and bashed and crushed. And I just hope at some point, loved ones, it doesn't start to hurt your feelings, because just recognize what this really is. We can develop a lot of strength, and this inner strength becomes very important to us later when it comes down to having confidence to stand in that conviction. If you're unsure, if you're uncertain, if you don't quite believe, if you doubt more than anything, this is going to be a tough go for you. At some point, you may have these aha moments, and with enough of these aha moments, you'll develop this inner strength to do this stuff and carry it all the way through. But I just want you to know, and rest easy, rest assured here, that some of us have gone through this gauntlet for long enough that we have identified pitfalls. We have come into situations where, oh, we tried that, don't do that again. Our experience is now being rolled out to everybody. To me, this is a huge component as to why I'm here and why we're talking about affidavits. Because this affidavit is literally going to change the character of your entire life. And here's why. I pulled this out of Gibson's yesterday, and when we were talking about it, I did mention this, but again, I'm just sitting here looking at this morning, this one particular sentence that says, the force of a bill or petition depends greatly on the character of the affidavit attached to it. Dean and I and other loved ones have been in and out of court for civil matters and criminal for the better part of our adult lives. We've been dealing with affidavits a lot. Now that we have a greater understanding or a greater comprehension of what's going on here, I've just recently come to realize a lot of the affidavits that we were trying to put into effect back in the day, yeah, the spirit of them might have been good, but you know what? Technically, we dropped the ball a lot. We missed a lot of stuff. So if your affidavit is coming to a judge with a bunch of holes in it, it's not going to have the strength, or it's not going to have the ability to actually get done what we need to get done. which is why sometimes we couldn't believe how the Crown prosecutors would literally just roll in and steamroll you like you weren't even there. And the judges are kind of sitting in the background, kind of laughing. It's almost like they're getting off on it somehow. It's like this weird sexual charge. It's kind of strange what some of the shit that we've seen over the years. But this affidavit now, loved ones, we're going to use this as a very specific tool to sharpen our deficiencies or our mistakes that we've made in the past, get those corrected. And once we supply or furnish this better version of an affidavit, wow, we are in a such better, stronger position than we ever have been. This particular tool is really going to get us where we need to go. So without further ado, I'm just going to move right into this thing now. I'm going to try sharing the screen again. Here we go. Now, again, loved ones, I know this document, okay, so as we've been talking about this for a few days now, over the next couple of days, again, because we're trying to develop this for a loved one here so that he can roll into court or get a petition filed on Monday. This is going to have to be done and complete by Monday morning, as a matter of fact, or probably maybe Monday afternoon. Just to have this thing printed and still get to the notary and have a notary sign it, although this can always be done at a courthouse. That's all easily done. So we have a limited time frame here now that we're going to be getting this thing wrapped up and finished. So I haven't made any changes other than what you're looking at in green for today. So I've got a few little add-ons coming in here at the bottom we'll get talking about. But when we are coming dually, that means in both capacities, equitable side, public side, in person and the man. Again, I'm not opposed to bringing the person in a little bit. Why? Because that thing's already stuck to us. You can't shake it off. You can't get rid of it until this court process is done. So why fight it? Why create such controversy and such discord trying to prove a fact wrong? Why don't we just roll with this for just a second and deal with it properly? Roll in both characters, roll out with one of them gone. That's literally getting rid of the duality. One half of the duality ought to be given or donated or appointed to another party. Again, we've kicked that horse a lot. Okay, so this is one thing I did add here, though. So we got Jody coming in, of or near the land called British Columbia, whatever. Yeah, I got to put in here the title of what this is, the petitioner. Throw that one in there. I didn't have that one in there yesterday, and so just going over it this morning, it's like, oh, yeah, there's a little void. Okay, and that the statements in her foregoing position are made and are true of her own knowledge. Just another little. Again, I'm just picking out little things from Gibson's books here and Gilbert's books and Pomeroy's books and stuff as we go. These affidavits are always going to be tweakable. Now, again, these particular set of circumstances, a lot of them are going to apply to you and all the other loved ones out there, but you're going to have a particular set of circumstances that needs to be inserted, and that's going to be different for everybody. Okay, so rather than put the surname when Jody's coming forward and saying, I am called, I am is a positive statement. Called, we're literally talking about scripture here. How can you be called and how can you be summoned at the same time? You know what? You can't. Being called is literally referring to serving our Creator. I am called to do this throughout my life, whatever that is. That is a condition precedent. That is something that's existing. That is something we're bringing with us. That doesn't sound like a very important word, called, but it is. Throw your age in here as well. Yeah, we're testing or we're suggesting that we're of the age of majority. And as a matter of fact, now that I'm throwing that one out there, I don't even know if I've got that little statement in here. Yeah, probably not. So right around here, let's just say 45. You could, again, when you see my specific English, the way I have it, I am called Jody Lynn, surname and trust. You could put in here, I am 45 years of age. Yeah, I know. I just try to, slice out as much stuff as I can, because this stuff gets out of control right quick and it turns into a half a dozen pages. And again, we're trying to shorten this right up. So if you want, again, I am 45 years of age. Throw in here maybe a comma, and let's just say maybe I am of the age of majority. Being of the age of majority is important. Majority indicates that you're not of the minority category. Okay, so there's the switch. Before we're 18 or 21, we're deemed minors, infants, babies. And as such, we literally are in no position to try to really do anything in terms of availing our rights, whether they're legal or equitable. Minors don't really have a good standing here to get any of this done, although they can. A 16-year-old can do this affidavit and get all this stuff put through. Again, of course he or she can, because at about the age, as we've discussed in the past, at about the age of about 16, we're already deemed capable to grant our entire future away to the state and now take on this new person and act as the debtor, the liable party to that thing. So again, if you're in the position to be able to do all that, well, then you are also in the position to create an affidavit, correct the record, get some information, some substance, some facts brought to a judge so that he can look at it and he can make a decision. Everything else kind of stayed the same here. Like I said, I did inject a couple other paragraphs coming up here. Now, again, out of all of this stuff, now I ran out of time yesterday and I didn't even have a chance to talk about this paragraph here in orange, I guess this color is. So again, because this is right at the beginning of our affidavit, that I believe rights are what is due the complainant, or what is due or owing to the petitioner. Duties are what is owing to the defendant. So there you go. So see, you got something that is due to the complainant, the individual bringing the claim, and then you got something owing to the defendant. So we got both parties being looked after. Both have their set roles, and as such, the judge can actually make a determine and instruct or direct both parties to do or say or conduct themselves in certain manners. Go file this and then do this and then go, and then I can help, whatever. The judge is going to be able to lay all of that out for us. So I just kind of thought it was interesting. I've never really done this before. I've never stuck this particular paragraph or anything like it in any of the affidavits we've ever done before. But what this is actually doing is kind of setting the stage for why equity should take over. Because we're talking about, we're talking about rights. We're talking about duties and things being discharged. And we're talking about rights that cease on certain events having taken place. We're talking about parties that are entitled. We're talking about justice. We're talking about the law being satisfied. Once the law is satisfied, there is no more controversy. There is no more dispute. Remember, in some of our past episodes, I've made reference to the fact that, hey, there's got to be a way where we can deal with all of our problems here without creating a dispute, without having to sue somebody to get our stuff fixed. Problem is, we are the ones that created the disturbance. We're the ones that created the dispute. How? Again, when you took that certificate of security that says do not identify as this thing, and then we go do it, boom, that creates the controversy. You took a title that wasn't supposed to be in your possession and you ran off with it. You gave no one any notice as to what your intent was. You told nobody what you were going to do, things of this nature. So you checked in real quick to the game and then you checked out. It's not your fault, though, because as I've said a bazillion times, none of us knew what was going on here in the background. So we are pursuing where justice is done and the law is satisfied. That is a loaded statement right there. So if you're believing any of this stuff to be true, or if you know any of this stuff to be true, this is already setting the stage so that any defendant or anybody trying to bring a claim against you for whatever purposes, you are about to unleash. Look at this, where it says a whole bunch of Latin stuff here. Justitia constans, a perpetua, voluntas, okay, well, they got to be talking about volunteering right there. Perpetua, I bet you that's going to have something to do with forever, because in perpetuity means forever. It's like you volunteered forever, just some, I don't even know how to pronounce this shit, tribuende. Justice's unwavering and unceasing disposition to accord to everyone what is his or hers due. There's a mouthful. But what that's doing is saying, hey, it's honorable and it's just, it's righteous that I receive the grace and the mercy and the blessings because I've overcome some things. We've overcome some great adversity, some great plague, some great sickness that has befallen us all. When we overcome that, you can see why you're going to be held in a higher regard. You can see why when we come as friends to the crown and not enemies, you can see why this is a much more substantial position to be in, and this is why we're striving for this position. Coming with clean hands and coming in peace is everything. How do you settle a dispute? How do you settle a disturbance? Well, you come in peace. You offer something back. If any of us have paid a lot of attention to scripture in the past, you would have noticed that there's a lot of talk in there about sin offerings. What would a sin offering do? What would it look like? And why would we want to be doing it? Consider, okay, so we're in the world of sin. Now we're trying to make an offer to undo the sin. So a sin offering is literally, hey, I use this certificate to get this special number at the federal level. That's the sin. And now I wish to take those and offer it back to the state. I cleaned it up. I made it better. I absolved my involvement. My volunteering is what put my ass in that shitty spot. So I'm going to undo that. This is why this affidavit is going to be the thing that gets all this conveyed or brings it to the judge. So again, so every duty cognizable in the courts. Now that's a little bit ambiguous, or that's a little bit blank. We could actually say every duty cognizable in a court of competent jurisdiction. But you know what? That would actually, I guess, suggest if you rolled into a court of inferior jurisdiction, you may be trying to say, hey, then I won't get the remedy I'm seeking. I can only get it in a court of competent jurisdiction. A lot of the equity books and the authors of them talk about how we always need to be getting to that court of competent jurisdiction to have our problems dealt with properly. I'm going to suggest as soon as you show up with that certificate done the way we're talking about, have its interests perfected, have the titles addressed, have the intent being disposed of, autographing this thing properly, maybe under a certain chunk of legislation to wrap it all up. Again, under the Trustee Act, notice the following. Under the Securities Transfer Act, notice the following. Again, take actual notice of the following. This certificate, as soon as the court gets it, even if it's an inferior tribunal, they're going to know what that is. And they're going to probably grant instant relief, or they're going to punch in your name in the computer and go, no, there's no court case scheduled for you today. Are you sure? Oh, hang on, I'll check again. Yeah, no, our records show that there's nothing here happening for you today. This has happened to us before. That would only happen when you show up with the clean hands. You've literally pushed the public away. Say, hey, you're not inclusive to what I'm trying to do anymore. You're being excluded. So that any and every right enforceable in these courts arises from some law or some contract, whether it's express or implied. And this statement is based upon information and belief. And where so stated, I have named the source of the information as... I put a $sign in here because I was in a rush and I couldn't find the little symbol for subsection. You know, when you got the two S's, that creates the subsection symbol. So although the dollar sign is a little bit practical for this application as well, because at the end of the day, I know we talk a lot about how this isn't about the money, but yet let's just be real. A large component of what we're doing is about the money. They can only compensate us by giving us money or providing us the ability to use property as a form of paying us back, which I'm going to suggest, or I'm going to throw it out there, that that's fair. I can work with that. You held my entire life interest in trust while I was away. And you know what? Thank you. Because without you doing that, I wouldn't have the ability to do what I'm about to do. So despite all the bullshit and all the stuff that Dean and I have thrown out there over the years about how much we hate the system and how the Queen's a bitch and yeah, no, I take all that back. Now that we have a greater understanding or a greater comprehensive grasp on what the hell it is we're trying to do, if they hadn't have done what they did, we could not experience the redemption, the salvation, the resurrection that we're about to now. So I actually thank them. And I thank all the police officers who treated me like shit over the years, especially the ones that tasered me. I have no ill will for them. And as a matter of fact, again, there's one of the examples where stuff that Dean and I've done in the past where we actually never even made it known to the public, stuff that's happened. I've got the video. I've had it for 7 years and I've never posted it. Could have, but something just told me, you know what, why? I'm sure it would have had 1 million views. So what? What's more important to me now is showing how we are being, or how we are capable of forgiving. How could I have any ill will towards that officer for tasing me when I'm the one running around in person acting like a lunatic? It's tough. It's a tough argument there. So here's what I did add this morning. Okay, so after that first little introductory blurb, that's subsequent. Okay, remember in the affidavit, the judges are always looking, when they see the word subsequent, that means boom, they home in on that. They focus it. This is one of their focus in words. So subsequent to events having occurred on or about the day I was born or you were born, and by information duly provided by my parents, stick their names in here, certain interests were granted or delivered to the province or state of, right, for the strict purposes of registration. That was the entire reason they did it. How can I prove that? Because they barely even knew the registration was happening. They knew they get something back from vital statistics. That's all they know. Trust us. Your mom and dad and mine, they had more important things to do with their lives than any of this stuff. That entire generation missed this. And probably half the generation, if not the entire generation before them even, your grandparents, right? They went through a Great Depression and some famines and a couple of world wars, or one anyway. That had an incredible influence on their life. The bankers and the lawyers are doing all this sneaky shit in the background while the world is preoccupied with a war. That way, no attention, or they're not going to be noticed, or they thought that we weren't going to see what they were up to in the background here. And again, here's another perfect example. The Emergency Banking Relief Act in the States, the United States, I think they passed this thing on Christmas Eve when 3/4 of the senators were not present. They weren't even there. They were gone for Christmas holidays to visit their families and all that stuff. They come back, and the senators that were there, they rammed through all this crazy legislation for everybody. A little bit dubious, if you ask me. Okay, so we're talking about a certificated security and registered form here. Okay, so let me just back this all up for a second. Why are we talking about this birth certificate and the dates and the parties and what was going on? Because we're using that to set the stage. Certain things happened when we were born. Call that block A. That's now substantiated. That's now a fact. That can all be proved. We have all the stuff to prove this. Now that it's proved, here's our next obstacle. Okay, now that it's here, what do we do now? Well, now we take this block A and we express a specific or special interest in it. So block 2, which I'm sort of developing now, or I'm about to develop, is going to go in the middle here, because it's going to talk about the trust that we're creating. It's going to talk about schedules. It's going to talk about intent. It's going to talk about appointments. It's going to say, hey, there's a problem, and this is what I'm doing to solve the problem. So that's going to be a pretty meaty part of our affidavit. And then the third block is going to say, and this is why I'm bringing a cause to court to have this problem figured out. So the third block, or the last block, you can say, is why we are doing this, the remedy we are seeking, the purpose, the direction, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to try to lay this out as efficiently and as quickly as possible. Again, I am trying to get away from the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 page documents. When someone says, here, Darren, read my 50 pages, you know what? To be honest with you, I don't. If I were to read everybody's 50-page documents, I barely have any time to get anything else done. And here's the other reason. Those, all of those documents and paperworks are very similar to everything else that we've always been doing here in the past. So with little variations and little tweaks, it was still the same thing, just wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat. These people would put a slightly different flavor to it, but you know what? It was still all the same problem. So I'm looking at a screen here that says Zoom Cloud Meeting signed out. You have been signed out because you are currently signed in on another device. So what would I do with that?
Just keep going. You're fine.
So I just hit OK?
Yeah, just hit OK. You're fine.
All right. It's asking me for a bunch of stuff. I'll just say, can you see this, Kim?
No, just move that over to the side and keep going. It's fine.
Okay. No, let's cancel that. Okay, hang on. It's giving me a little bit of grief. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so subsequent to events having occurred on or about the day you were born, and by information duly provided by my parents, their names, certain interests were granted or delivered to the province for the strict purposes of registration. And there exists a particular certificate of security in registered form, registered on or about the day it was registered, and subsequently issued on or about that day, because sometimes they're different dates, evidencing said event. Boom. You just now suggested, hey, something important happened. Call it my birth. A certificate was applied for and received by mom and dad, and then they didn't know what to do with it, so they just kind of gave it to me, and here we are. Number 4, that's subsequent to their ignorance, or your parents' ignorance, of the requirements under law or equity, or them having little or no knowledge or understanding of the peculiar nature and character of this transaction, the birth event. The informants, again, your parents, failed to avail my rights as an infant. Parents, your parents, having not expressed any agreement or terms or trust duties by appointment or otherwise, they abandoned any and all interests in that said certificate of security in registered form. Boom. This number 4 just opened the door for the judge to say, okay, he's implying that something was not done that ought to have been done. And this is where one of the maxims kicks in, is right here. As a matter of fact, I would actually, by tomorrow's version of this affidavit, I'm going to have that included right here. And where it is relied by the petitioner that equity regards as done what ought to be done. That's probably how I would finish this one. Number 5, that I am come now to avail myself of any and all abandoned interests, especially the equitable interest, and to put directly. Now again, use the word directly as much as we can. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at Gibson's book here, and just let me quickly scoot back up to the beginning of this affidavit, because where we're talking about personal knowledge, Gibson's book is actually saying Okay, and I have such personal knowledge. He's actually suggesting to put, he says to put this right here. Boom. Okay, I'll make that green. Hang on. Direct personal knowledge.
Hey, Darren, what page in Gibson's book is that on?
That is on page 610, subsection 788.
Thank you.
Okay. Why do we want to be using the word direct? Because at the end of the day here, loved ones, you've heard me in past episodes when I was talking about security entitlement orders, once you've moved this security certificate to the proper party that should have had it the whole time, well, as soon as you do that, you are now entitled, or you're now able to issue or grant or declare or put out there directions, instructions, demands, requisitions. Hey, go do that. The directions is important. This is where, like, okay, again, consider Hollywood. You got the director telling the actors what to do. And if the director doesn't like how the actors are acting, the director has some options. He can, do everything from counsel the actors, tell them how he wants them to act specifically, put more emotion in this. You're supposed to be experiencing a very sad situation, so why are you smiling? The public is not going to believe your performance. Therefore, do it better next time. Take 2, right? Try again. Cut. Now, directing these actors or trustees through instructions and in security entitlement orders is something that comes after we do this process. That's you having your dominion back. That's you literally having your control back. When you have direct control over something, what does that mean? What does that imply? It means that nobody can come in and screw around with it. It's yours. And this is why the control is very important. Again, I've said it a lot. We have either one of 2 options. You can have possession of something, or you can have control of the something. Having both at the same time means that there's no trust. The whole concept of what we're trying to do here is say, hey, when I was born, I was possessed. I was in possession of a legal interest. And then I subsequently took that legal interest and I did a whole bunch of legal things with it. I acted very legally. And the legal system loves you for it. The legal system applauds you for it. Good job. So what we're trying to do now is suggest, well, wait a minute. I made a mistake by being possessed by that thing, being in possession of that thing. I would like my control back. So we get the control back by coming now to avail ourselves, get these abandoned interests not so abandoned, and put certain interests, the legal ones specifically, directly into the possession of an appropriate party or the appropriate party, the defendant, if you like, where the security interest that was attached to me, because you lived your whole life with that thing attached to you, you acted on its behalf, you paid its debts, you suffered, etc. You've signed everything or stuck your signature on everything respecting this name our whole lives. That's why we know we're coming forward here to correct all this. So as a result of no certain disposition having ever occurred, nobody ever showed up to dispose of an interest that was attached to us. I love this word disposed. It literally feels like you're peeling this thing off, putting it in a garbage bag and taking it out to the curb and waiting for the trustees to come by now and pick it up every Monday morning. And this is why it's kind of, I don't want to say funny, but it's kind of, or ironic's not the right word either, but it's interesting how, again, we've had the ability to fix our problems this whole time. So therefore, if somebody has had the ability to fix their problem, very little mercy is given to you. It's almost like, well, you should know better because of all this stuff, but you don't. But because you don't know any better, that's also no excuse why you should not be punished for not knowing what you should have known. So the legal system kind of treats us like, you know what? You have no excuse because you're surrounded, you're drowning in possible remedy. All we had to do is express some of this stuff. All we had to do was get some of this stuff on the record. And again, this is where, again, as I've indicated in the past, the maxims, the 20 maxims of equity, they do all the heavy lifting for you. You just got to get that snowball formed at the top of the hill and then push it over the edge. And that snowball, as it goes down, gets bigger. Its velocity increases, its momentum gets very scary. Like, look, get out of the way of the snowball. By the time it's at the bottom of the hill, you don't want to get hit by the thing. That's equity running. That's equity doing its job. Show up with a few statements. That's why I'm suggesting, hey, when the court wants to see from us, okay, what is the material subject matter of your claim, your adverse claim, whatever you want to call it? What's the reason, or where's the evidence for your complaint? Why do you have a problem? Well, these paragraphs in green here at the beginning of our affidavit are going to set the foundation, set the stage, because it's indicating how we got into possession of something that we weren't supposed to be in possession of. There was a mistake. There was a fraud. There's an error in the record. So now we can come along and say, hey, that I know and I assert. Again, assert is very powerful. I know and assert possession of said security, the security, has been in my sole possession since the approximate age of about, okay, whenever. Throw an age in here. If your mom and dad said, here, little Johnny, take your birth certificate. I know you're only 12, but here, this is important. If you can actually remember the day that mom and dad did that for you, throw it in here. I'm just going to round this off for most of us being around 16 years old-ish when we all applied for that social number. So that now your parents, my parents, acting on my behalf, also put me into direct possession of that said security. You had it. You had it hiding in your bedroom, or maybe it was in your wallet, or maybe you put it in your piggy bank, or maybe you put it in the big bank in a safety deposit box. Maybe mom and dad did that for you, whatever. Point was, you were in direct possession of this thing. And thereby, mom and dad, my parents, instructed me to act as and for this person by making voluntary application for that social insurance number, for that social security number, for that national security number, national identity, whatever they do in England, at the approximate age of 16 again. So this is only like 2 or 3 or 4 little additions to what we were dealing with already. But you see now, the judges, the judiciary can instantly see where the problem came from and why you're trying to come forward now and fix it. And all because you/we/ through our parents' influence, we all made a mistake. Now, granted, the legal system would look at this and say, that's no reason to come to court. That's no reason to sue the Attorney General. That's no reason to name as a defendant the public guardian and trustee. If you don't want to put Jane and John Doe down as the defendant, chuck that one in there. Public guardian and trustee, the guardians. They're there, loved ones. They are an incredibly influential and important layer of what it is we're doing. Often overlooked. The public guardian and trustee usually only materializes, or people only usually talk about it when there's a case involving a child, or when someone dies. It has to do with like probate court, and it has to do with all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of an unfamiliar term. A lot of us aren't really, familiar with what that is. So naming the public guardian and trustee as the defendant right here, you don't have to name names, just that, a title. Public guardian and trustees et al. Et space al. Et al means and others. Why do you want to put and others? Well, because as it turns out, if it's not just the public guardian trustees who need to be made aware of what it is you're doing here, maybe the public generally should know what the hell's going on because you're about to lay some serious smackdown. The attorney general ought to know. The lieutenant governor is going to know at the end of the day. The governor general is going to know at the end of the day. And eventually this actually goes all the way back up to the queen herself. This trickles all the way up. This is such a significant event when we come forward and we fix our problem. I shit you not, the queen is going to be made aware of this one day while she's sitting there having her tea. Notice to agent is notice to principal. So even though you only told a lawyer what it is you're about to do, through that doctrine, notice to agent, that the lawyer is the agent, is the same as notice to that agent's principal, is the same as noticing all these other government titles and departments, which is why, as I was suggesting the other day, the judiciary, the judge, acting in his or her discretion, will demand, literally, or compel, or force, or tell you to go and get your advertisement done. Now, the advertisement itself is something you could come to the judge and say, well, yeah, okay, Your Honor, I haven't done that yet. Can I have a little bit of instruction, please? Can I have a little bit of clarity on what's required? And the judge would literally say, yes. Go to Civil Court Rules and Forms, form number 28. It's titled Advertisement. Fill that in the best you can and bring it back to me. If you were on the ball, you might say, well, Your Honor, you know what? I anticipated that, so I actually printed it out and I brought it with me. And I actually have it 2/3 filled out. Could we take a moment to, yeah, absolutely. Or here, he might just say, here, just give it to me now. Let me see what you got. Okay, yeah, notice to public creditors in the matter of the estate of, oh, yeah, okay, I can work with this. Now the judge is literally going to take it and he can fill it out for you. Leave that with me. I'll deal with it. Perfect. Let him do that. As a matter of fact, insist that the judge does it. Why? Because I don't want to waste any more court time. I don't want to screw around. We've already wasted enough freaking effort here, loved ones. We're done making mistakes. So again, come at this situation with just enough information. And here, these in green here, these new paragraphs are important because it's creating the possibility of having your problem fixed. If you don't show where the problem came from, the judges are going to have a hard time fixing what it is you're trying to do, which is why you'll find very frequently, right away, a judge is going to have a brief overview of what it is you're bringing before him, and he's going to instantly ask you, okay, what remedy are you seeking? And right about there is when you might want to say, well, Your Honor, subsequent to my parents' ignorance of the requirements under the law or equity, I am coming forward now through posterity, through lineage, all the way back to Christ and our other fathers. You can literally stretch it all the way back to that. I'm coming forward now to avail myself of any abandoned interests that ought to be enjoyed by me. And thereby, this court ought to issue an injunction or a vesting order to put the defendant into possession of the legal interest, the legal title, the legal right that they shall also enjoy the duties attached therewith, however you want to style it. But what we're suggesting here is we took an event, it's documented, we can prove it. We can prove we made a mistake, and we can now prove why we're coming forward to fix it. that I know and assert that, again, I've been in sole possession of this security since, again, about 16 years old. And because I made this voluntary application, that's what screwed me over, Your Honor, for the next 40 years of my life. Now, I know the court can't put you into a state of enlightenment, a state of Christ-like consciousness. No, because you already have that. That's why you're coming to the judge, to get your problems fixed. And again, the courts really want to be involved here, loved ones. Anything to do with contracts, reforming contracts, deeds, implied trusts, express trusts, all that stuff. Nobody knows this shit better than the judges. Why would you go to a what would be a good example? Why would you go to a lawnmower salesman when you have questions about how to bake a birthday cake? Lawnmower guy's going to be like, I can't help you with your problem, but may I interest you in purchasing this new lawn boy? It's on sale for $1,299. It has all-wheel drive. It has zero-turn steering. It has incredibly low fuel efficiency, but whatever. Go to the right party seeking the remedy. Yeah, I know I've said a lot of stuff in the past about, okay, send a perfected birth certificate to the Receiver General. Send a perfected birth certificate to, who else did we send it to? Registrar General. I've sent them to the Governor General. We've sent them all over the map. They're all over the place. Again, why would the birth certificate application have right on it quantity? How many birth certificates do you need? How many do you want? It's like, wow, that's kind of strange. Why would you need more than one? Well, here's why. Again, once you perfect this thing, once you start negotiating this thing properly, you can literally use these things as money. When we do this right, I'm going to assign, or I'm going to appoint you to manage a portion of my big life estate, evidence right here by this particular little birth certificate. You're entitled, Mr. Johnson, the lawyer over here, you're entitled to manage a portion. A portion means not the whole thing, just a chunk of it. So you get a birth certificate, you get a portion with a birth certificate to prove it, you get a portion with a birth certificate to approve it, and so on. Now, that's one way of doing this. I mean, yeah, you literally could do it like this, create all these trusts all over the place and manage all these things. Well, another option I'm suggesting here is go to the judge, express one big beefy trust, put him into the possession, put the court into possession, pay securities into court. Again, there will be acts and statutes regarding paying monies into court. Whether, if they're not in the court rules, go looking for them in the Securities Transfer Act, Financial Administration Act, something like this, where they're actually talking about securities being paid into court. Now, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to suggest almost every court should have that clause or that particular item in its court rules. It's always going to have at least one provision allowing the payment of securities into court so that the court can operate for you. Again, we all have experience where you go to your, can you imagine walking into a bank and say, yeah, I'd like to make a withdrawal? And the bank teller, clerk there, or whatever, she says, okay, what's your account number? And you say, oh, sorry, I don't have an account here. I haven't made a deposit here. And the clerk's going to look at you like, well, then how are you going to make a withdrawal if you haven't deposited anything? See where I'm going with this one? Make that deposit, make that special deposit, special reposit. Pay securities into court. You can also pay money into court. Again, don't get me wrong, you can actually literally just pay money into court for certain things. But here's the crux of what I'm getting at. When we pay securities into court, that provides, or that furnishes, the ability for the court to make certain decisions. It's going to pay, it's going to support, it's going to look after, it's going to cover any debts, costs, fees, services, interest, and so on. Everything to do with the commercial system is going to be now covered by the birth certificate, not you breaking your back 9 to 5 every day for the rest of your life so that you can pay for your house. A, it wasn't your house. B, you didn't pay for it. C, we're undoing this whole friggin' illusion by doing some of the stuff that we're talking about here right now. So again, these little green paragraphs that I added this morning substantiate, or they really start to lay down some of the evidence or some of the material facts that are incredibly important to what it is that you're about to do. Having said these now and having installed these and having put these in, I would definitely not shave a lot of meat off of this at all. If you're gonna come in and say, okay, how do I take, Darren, I want to take your paragraph number 3 that says that subsequent to events having occurred on about blah, 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 blah. How do I boil that right down, Darren? I want to turn that into one sentence. Okay. You would literally say that, Your Honor, I know I was born on this date. My parents gave me a birth certificate. I used that birth certificate wrong. I volunteered to be a trustee. I volunteered to be the liable party. That birth certificate was registered on such and such a date. There. Now cut that down further. Again, do you have to put in there for the strict purposes of registration? No. However, the word strict means very precisely. It means that there was not a lot of gray area here. Certificated securities in registered form. Do I have to put that, Darren? No. You could put chattels real there. You could put personal property there. You could put, I have a birth certificate. It's in my possession. I have direct access to it. We can soften the red version of what I'm always telling, or how I'm laying it out here. We can always massage these things, make it a little bit more suitable for your level. But again, as I've suggested, I want to come at everybody here with the tough version and then work down, rather than come in the middle and then have a whole bunch of possibilities for, okay, this is just going to get harder from here. Well, that's a little bit defeating. I don't want loved ones rolling into this situation and looking at this stuff saying, oh my God, you mean this is going to get harder than it already is? No. I'd rather give it to you here now, as tough as it's ever going to be, and we'll just soften it from here. So with all that being said, loved ones, I know we're almost at an hour already. I don't know how this hour goes by so fast. I'm going to have to talk to somebody about this. Establishing, again, another very important word, establishing. That means you set it down. You carved it in stone. Once it's established, how does it become unestablished? See, like what does somebody sneak in here and steal it from your mind? They take it away so that you are no longer in control of your thoughts anymore. But believe it or not, I think that injection that they're trying to give us all right now, that would literally be a result where, Your Honor, I was balls deep in this whole equity program, and then I went and got that injection, and now I can't remember what the hell I was doing. Literally, those things, that process that they're trying to push onto the public right now, it has the ability to A, change our DNA, B, start to alter the way we think, and now we're subject to new programming. So when they mix the ability for you to receive new signals from, let's just call it the 5G towers out there, they are really going to be able to control things at a level that they've never been able to before, all in an effort so that we, the crystalline children, don't come forward and start fixing this world and taking it back from Satan. Do you think Satan wants us to throw him in the pit? Do you really think he wants us to wake up and avail ourselves? Do you really think he wants us to see the illusion and the confusion that he's created? Look at all the effort that he's put in. Look at all the blood, sweat, and tears that he's invested into his little world. You can see how he would want to protect it. You can see why it would make complete sense that he would do everything under the sun to keep us in a position where we never really woke up. I'm going to suggest your loved ones don't put a lot of scripture into this very first affidavit. Don't put a lot of holy text. Don't put a lot of, pursuant to Corinthians 1:7, where a free man is the guy or a girl that's serving Christ. The judge doesn't need that right now. The judge knows you're already doing that. So because of your behavior now, because of your cleanliness, because of your moral claim. Now, again, remember, back in I think it was in the security agreements, I'll have to dig it out. An adverse claim is a moral claim. And I can show you in the legislation there when it says when the petitioner or the applicant or the complainant comes forward with a moral claim. Moral claim implies you've read scripture. You know what the hell's going on. Then you went and did some legal digging and you found out, I see where things all went sideways. When I volunteered to serve the dark side of the force, that's when everything went shitty on me. Okay, so Your Honor, it makes sense now that here, look at this little bit of information. I've told you subsequent to an event. That means it happened. That means no one can deny it. No one can now come along and argue that. Boom. What man or woman, never mind acting in person, can come along and say, well, that event never happened. See? This is why we don't have to give notice to the defendants. Because with what we're coming with, it's so cut and dried. It's so black and white. It's so easy. There's no way a man or woman out there can rebut our claims. Here's the other reason why. Because we are bringing a bond, your birth certificate, a bond duly executed, duly sealed, duly delivered, duly directed, duly. The only way another man or woman can have a hope to argue that is if they bring their bond duly executed, duly sealed, duly endorsed, duly to compete with yours. Trust me, loved ones, no lawyer out there is going to do that. Nope. They're going to hide behind their little legal title, behind their little bar card. They do not want to come as a man or woman and argue with you and bring their bond incidentally to the case. Because in the off chance there's a possibility that they might lose, that means they might lose everything. No particular little case in the legal system is worth that particular lawyer losing everything he's worked for in his life. I'm talking his summer cottage, his boat, his 2 Mercedes-Benz cars in his garage, all his investments, everything. Everything that man or woman has attached their autograph to through their birth certificate now is on the table. Ante up. I'm calling your bluff. There's no way they're going to bring their bond to the table, which is why you never even really knew that this was an option. But when you call for their bond to be made a party or brought into evidence into the court, they're going to run out the door because they know they're trying to put you in jail because you failed to produce a driver's license or you ran a stop sign, even if you robbed a bank. They are not going to match the value that you brought to the court case as plaintiff or petitioner. Okay, so what happens? Kind of sounds like you win by default, doesn't it? Yes, you automatically win. That's why this process is so beautiful. We literally roll into this knowing there's no way you can lose now. Nice position to be in for once. We've always known it's been sitting here, but it's literally taken us this long to figure it out. And apologies to everyone out there that's taken us this long to figure all this stuff out. Sorry. Here we are, though. And again, through that collective effort of everybody, like I was suggesting at the beginning of this show, gentlemen here like Big Kahuna and others that are standing up to the silliness. Yeah, throw those comments out there once in a while. Go ahead. Because it maintains a higher vibration. And it shows that other onlookers and other people that were truly interested in this and were feeling those heartstrings being tugged at, they're not going to be deflected now. They're not going to just all of a sudden have a whole lot of doubt because some character showed up and posted a shitty comment on one of our segments or one of our episodes. I care about that man or woman or young one who's coming forward and is actually feeling the importance of what it is we're doing here. So I want to literally reach out to that man or woman or a youngster and say, hey, don't give up. Don't be discouraged by somebody else's crap. Again, there are a lot of keyboard heroes out there. There are a lot of people out there that suggest what we're doing is crazy. Fine, let them have their opinion. But don't get too embroiled with these shills, because again, they're being paid to piss you off and to question and to ridicule you and to call you an idiot. Realize this, the loved ones. Yeah, we were all idiots at one point. And it's only through doing this process do we have the chance of proving to a judge that, hey, I'm no longer an idiot. I'm worthy of redemption and mercy and forgiveness because I figured out all this stuff. And again, I didn't need to figure it out 10 out of 10. I only really needed to figure it out, believe it or not, I'm going to say 3 out of 10, maybe even 4. We literally only needed to figure out 30% of this stuff, maybe 40. Now, again, in many other aspects of life, that's a failing mark. You didn't achieve the goal with 30 or 40% figured out. Equity has a slightly different perspective on this because equity knows what it is we're up against. So with that, loved ones, I'm going to start to really tighten up this affidavit now over the next day and a half. So it's going to shrink in areas. We're going to start to boil some of these paragraphs down into just a sentence or two. I'm going to really start to try to tighten this up and crayon this, while at the same time maintaining a version that's the red style. So we're going to have a red style, and then we're going to have a crayon style when these affidavits are done. And that's what's going to encourage you to say, hey, okay, yeah, I think I can pull this off. And when you feel like you can pull this off, nothing's going to stop you. This is what being empowered is all about. This is what being in control is all about. This is what managing your own affairs is all about. Again, ex-President Barack Obama there, he's the one that suggested publicly, because no man or woman out there is capable of managing your own affairs, we're going to do it for you. Well, I would like to prove that guy wrong. Because although he's right, absolutely he's right. I know. But I'm just being pushed, I'm being driven, I'm being motivated highly to share as much of this as I can with as many people as fast as we can. And again, it doesn't have to be 100%. With that, loved ones, look forward now to the deed. We're going to start spinning the deed probably into the next affidavit class, because we're going to have this pretty tightened up. So I'm going to suggest I'm going to only need probably half of the class to actually only talk about the affidavit. What do I do with the other half? We got to bring the deed in here right away. Same thing with the petition. After probably tonight's class with the petition, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to shoot for tonight, we're going to have the petition wrapped up. So now I'm only going to spend half of the petition class speaking about the petition. The other half will be dealing with the deed. So again, loved ones, over the next 36 hours from right about now, we're going to have some pretty formidable documents that you're going to be in a position where like, I'm ready. Okay, loved ones, I think Kim wants to say something.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Right, okay, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So yes, there is a class tonight at 7 p.m. We will be posting all of anything that has to do with Darren stuff, live remedies, anything you're looking for, that is now on the live channel, the Dïevergence Live. Anything that has to do with kindergarten, the power of your cup and what you put in it, when we announce what classes will be put, when, where, anything, that stays on kindergarten. So if we could please keep our questions. Anything to do with equity, anything to do with these lives, that stays on the live channel. Anything to do with kindergarten, spirituality, what you're going through with your journey, and what you see during the meditations. We do have meditations before every one of our classes. So I encourage you to join. If you see things or you feel a certain way, put that on the kindergarten chat. And it's really lovely to see what people are putting up, and they're sharing their experiences. So that is super important. We will be changing things up on Telegram to make it easier to find information. So thank you for your patience on that. We did put up the next kindergarten class, The Power of Your Cup and What You Put in It, Part 1. The link is on the kindergarten channel. It is also on Facebook. And yes, everything we record will be posted unless stated otherwise. This is a repeat question, and I hope this answer is the last one I will have to put out there for that. Okay, guys? So thank you very much for showing up and for being in alignment. And thank you, Jody and Darren, for everything you do.
Thank you, loved ones. Look forward to seeing you in about 6 hours-ish if you're available. And if not, don't worry again. Check it out on YouTube. All right. Peace, everybody.